Hello friends, what child doesn't dream of becoming a superhero with unique abilities? Telepathy, telekinesis, clairvoyance. How I want to have all this, especially when there is a boring school and incomprehensible parents around. Here's the story of Michele, a boy who was lucky enough to make his dreams come true. One morning, Michele leaves the house early. He has 50 euros in his hands, which can be spent on the coolest Spider-Man costume in the whole city. But the day is not set from the very beginning. The seller does not let the boy inside. Empty-handed, Michele goes to school, where everyone is just talking about the upcoming Halloween party. Suddenly, a police officer, Giovanna Salenzi, comes into the classroom. The woman reports that their classmate Martino disappeared a couple of days ago and asks the children to share any information with her, and then suddenly approaches Michele to say something to him. She said he forgot his lunch. Michele's classmates begin to mock him and his nose bleeds from nerves. He throws the test and runs to the toilet, where he hides in a stall. But the offenders still get to him at recess. The guys take the money intended for the purchase of a suit and drive him out of school with a paintball gun in disgrace. Upset, Michele comes home. He refuses lunch and tries to get rid of his annoying younger sister, but when she laughs at her brother because he has no friends, Michele resolutely leaves the house and goes to a cheap shop of terrible goods. There he buys the simplest costume of some Chinese superhero, in which he goes to the party. There he immediately meets his beloved Stella in the image of Marie Antoinette, but they do not have time to talk normally. On the big TV, the bullies show strange footage. They said they took Michele's phone out of the teacher's desk and found a video in it. Michele wants to sink through the ground with shame. He runs away from his classmates and locks himself in a room, praying to his reflection to become invisible. However, the wish, of course, is not fulfilled and he jumps out of the window and runs home. In the morning, the guy wakes up right in his superhero costume. He changes clothes and goes to the bathroom to brush his teeth as usual, but looks up at the mirror and sees that his robe is hanging in the air. Michele runs into the room and throws off her robe. He understands that he is completely invisible. Suddenly, Mom runs into the room. She sees that her son is nowhere to be found and begins to worry, because recently one of his classmates disappeared in a similar way. Then Michele hastily writes a note and puts it on the bed until Giovanna sees it. Mom reads it and calms down. When Mom leaves for work, Michele dresses from head to toe and goes to the city. You won't go to class like this, but the guy has a better plan. When he notices his abuser on the street, hitting Ivan with a paintball gun, the guy decides to take off his clothes and go straight to class. Unnoticed, Michele takes a gun out of Ivan's backpack, shoots directly at the board and throws the weapon into the hands of the offender. Later, Michele goes to the teacher's room and rewrites the correct answers in her control. Then he goes to his second enemy, who performs at a tennis competition. Michele interferes with the guy when submitting the sword and he loses. In the locker room, the father humiliates the boy for failure, and after Michele brings the offender to a panic attack with a prank with tennis balls. After a successful revenge, Michele decides to please herself and penetrates into the girls' locker room after physical education. At first he enjoys the view, but suddenly an accidentally thrown towel falls right on him. The girls see a strange silhouette under the cloth and approach to remove the towel. And then Michele doesn't understand why his superpowers suddenly disappeared. His mother, in turn, is upset by her son's behavior, especially since she has more work to do. Another boy from Michele's class, Brando, disappeared without a trace. A psychologist is sent to the children's classroom. He tells teenagers that problems and different experiences at this age are completely normal, but this is not a reason to run away from home. Suddenly, the psychologist turns directly to Nikila, and he feels that he is starting to disappear again. The guy manages to escape from the classroom at the very last moment before anyone notices it. The annoying sister is waiting for the guy at home. He doesn't want her to see him and throws the girl out of the room. But she only pretends to have left, so after a couple of seconds the whole truth is revealed to her. At first, the girl screams in fright, but then she gets inspired and tries to figure out with her brother where he got his superpowers from. She tells him that he can help people. When Michele's mom arrives home, he is still not seen. The guy is sitting right in front of Giovanna while she is talking to someone on the phone. She complains that her son became aggressive and distanced himself from her. Maybe he still feels that he is adopted? Hearing these words, Michele runs out of the room in horror, gets on his bike, and drives off wherever he looks. All alone, the boy is swinging on a swing by the coast. Suddenly, Stella appears by the sea. She notices that the swing is swinging strangely without anyone's efforts. However, this does not frighten her at all. The girl sits on a nearby swing and starts a conversation with the ghost. She asks who he is, and Michele draws a smiley face in the sand with a piece of wood. This leads the girl to delight, and she offers to swing together. They chatted some more, and then Stella hurried off to practice. Before she left, she asked if they would see each other again. The next day, Michele apologizes to Stella for the episode in the locker room, and then notices that the girl is drawing a smiley face in her notebook. In the evening, he draws the same smiley face on the misted window of his beloved, and she lets him, already invisible, into the room. The ghost sneezes from the cold, and the girl covers him with a blanket, and under it approaches Michele to kiss. But the guy suddenly notices that he has started to turn into an ordinary person again, so he hurriedly jumps out of the window and runs away. At home, Michael's sister insists that he finally tell Stella the truth. The guy decides to try his luck and goes for a walk with the dog right to the gym, where Stella is engaged. Meanwhile, the girl's coach leaves her alone for a while, and someone shoots her with a dart with sleeping pills. Michele approaches the hall and sees that a man with a covered face is dragging a lifeless Stella to the car. The guy tries to stop the attacker, but he manages to fight back and leave. He blames himself for not being able to stop the intruder, for not being able to do anything. Soon Stella wakes up in an unknown place with a bunch of wires on her head. She is surrounded by strange people who take tests from her and ask incomprehensible questions. She begs to let her go home, but they refuse, calling themselves her friends. The next morning, Michele wakes up and decides that he urgently needs to save Stella. The guy runs after his suit and discovers that it has sat down terribly after washing and now fits only his sister. The guy is angry and yells at his mom for ruining his favorite thing. In anger, he yells at his foster mother. The boy screams and the house strangely bursts the glass. He runs away from home again, and meanwhile Stella is put in the same cage with Martino and Brando, the boys who disappeared earlier. Michele is sitting on the shore alone. Suddenly, a strange blind man approaches him, whom the boy has already noticed here on the coast. From the conversation, Michele quickly realizes that the man is able to read his thoughts and asks what he needs. Then the stranger introduces himself as Andre and declares that he is the real father of the boy. Andre says that he comes from Russia, where a nuclear disaster once happened. Then many died from radiation, but some of those who survived acquired superpowers. The military, who dreamed of creating an army of superhumans, showed interest in such special people. The problem was that they were all infertile, except for Andre himself and Michele's mother, Elena, whom they met at the camp. That's when Michele, the son of superhumans, was born. However, Michael's parents knew that the child would be taken away from them, so they decided to flee the camp. While Andre was hiding his little son in the forest, Elena turned into an invisible man to deal with the military. But one soldier still outwitted her. He noticed a butterfly on the girl's shoulder. Elena died, and Michele inherited her gift. And since Andre knew that the military would one day get to him, he decided to throw his son to the good woman Giovanna. Andre gives his son a special suit that was designed for his mother. No more hanging around the streets naked. And you can also control invisibility. Soon the police arrive at the place. A local fisherman mistook Andre for a criminal and reported him to the department. But before disappearing, Andre erases his memory. The fisherman remembers nothing else. Michele's mom asks what he did here, and the boy lies that he was just walking. Giovanna sends him home with a psychologist. The boy does not want to communicate with him. He is much more interested in a new suit. But the annoying psychologist still insists on drinking tea together and chatting. During the conversation, Michele notices a bandage on the psychologist's arm exactly in the place where his dog bit Stella's abductor. Realizing that he has been exposed, the psychologist bluntly says that he has locked all the doors in the house and now the boy cannot escape, and if he calls the police, all his friends will die. Michele manages to distract the psychologist and turn into an invisible man thanks to the suit he wore earlier. He throws knives at the opponent, but he dodges. Then the psychologist takes the flower and scatters it in the air to calculate Michele. In the end, he manages to grab the boy right before he jumps from the balcony. However, the guy still turns out to be more cunning. Once on the street, Michele sees Ivan nearby and gets on his motorcycle. He shouts at his enemy and orders him to move. The psychologist runs after them, but does not have time. Meanwhile, Giovanna returns home and sees an incredible mess. Suddenly, Andre rings at the door of her house, and Stella and the company do not waste time in prison. The girl manages to get out of the cell and see that they are on the ship. She walks on it and looks for a way to signal the SOS. Michele becomes visible again and chats with Ivan, who used to be his sworn enemy. He even confesses to the boy that he suffers from attention deficit disorder and therefore goes to a psychologist. Michele tells a classmate that it was this psychologist who stole Martin, Stella, and Brando. Ivan replies that he is ready to fight and takes out a new paintball rifle from his backpack. They are trying to figure out where they should go now and suddenly get a hint from Stella. But when Michele and Ivan find themselves at the ship, the bandits are already leading Stella into the hold with a pistol at her temple. A classmate suggests that Michele become invisible and get inside while he distracts the others. Ivan shoots at the protective fence and really sows panic on the deck, and meanwhile Michele crawls into the psychologist's office and his accomplices. There they watch Giovanna and Andre through hidden cameras. Michele almost gives herself away with a random noise, so she hurriedly leaves the office and finds Stella, who is roughly thrown on the floor for disobedience. Michele knocks out one of the guards and threatens the other with a gun. Stella and her friends come out of prison, and the girl finally understands who the ghost was all this time. Brando and Martino insist on escaping from the ship as soon as possible, but Stella tells Michele that there is still some old man in the depths of the hold who needs to be rescued. She leads the guy somewhere along long tunnels for a long time, and when she finally leads him, then Michele decides that Stella has betrayed him, but soon the evil old man, the leader of the group, explains what is the matter. It turns out that he can bend other people to his will. That's how he forced both the psychologist and Stella to do what he needed. Michele gets angry and starts fighting with the old man's retinue, but then he puts a gun to Stella's head and blackmails the boy. Then he gives an order to the guards and they press the red button. Martin and Brando see the countdown. The ship entered self-destruct mode. They don't know yet that the old man with Michele and Stella on board has separated from the ship and is plowing the depths of the sea on a submarine. The old man tells Michele that he is finally sailing home and will also thank him for being reunited with his mother. According to him, his mother is alive and waiting for him. Meanwhile, Giovanna and Andre see the lost boys in the hold. Martino and Brando tell Giovanna that Stella and Michele have stayed inside. The woman runs inside, despite the imminent explosion. There she meets a psychologist who swears he doesn't remember anything. A few seconds before the bomb is activated, Andre still pulls Giovanna and the psychologist out, and they miraculously escape death. The old man on the submarine continues to tell Michele about what a wonderful future awaits him and that he has no place in this world of boring people with their boring problems. Michele becomes enraged, and from his anger, the glass in the hold bursts and the equipment fails. Together with Stella, they manage to get into the captain's cabin and float to the surface. Finally, Michele and Stella are free. The boy shows the police officers and reporters gathered at the scene his superpowers, but people still can't believe it's true. Then the boy notices his father and runs after him. From the conversation, he understands that Andre is going to change the memory of all these people, because if they know about his abilities, Michele is in great danger. The father promises that he will come back and leaves. Time passes. Michele's mom doesn't remember anything that happened to them on the pier. The school is hosting a party in honor of Stella, Martino, and Brando. Upset, Michele comes to her and again becomes the object of ridicule of old enemies. But this time he finds something to answer. Michele sees Stella leaving the party and runs to talk to her. The girl admits that she doesn't want to celebrate and is about to leave, but suddenly Michele sneezes and Stella smiles mysteriously. They go for a walk together. Meanwhile, somewhere far away, another invisible man is informed that Michele has escaped. It turns out that this is Michael's mother, who is really alive and waiting for his return. However, she has another child, Michael's twin sister Natasha, who was recently found in distant Morocco. That's all for today. Put likes and write comments if you want more similar videos.